Hello and welcome to our webinar today entitled The Spring 2022 Release. Next slide. My name is Brian Witt and I head up product marketing, and joining me for the webinar today are our two vice presidents of product management, Amber DeTavio and Kathy Grossi. And so when we get into the topics we're going to cover, we're going to talk about our Spring 2022 release. Next slide, please. There we go. And we're going to do it really in three major sections. The first is going to be an introduction. We're going to talk a little bit about the product structure, the release schedule, the generic release schedule, and then the focus of this particular release. And then Amber and Kathy are going to do a deeper dive into the product components, talking about what's included in this release with regards to enhancements and new features. We're going to cover the Civic platform for our SaaS customers. We're going to cover the Civic platform for our SaaS and self-hosted customers. And we're also going to talk about Accela GIS, citizen access, mobile, as well as our Civic applications. And I do want to point out that I anticipate we're going to have a good amount of time at the end for your questions, but please use the Q&A icon in your Zoom panel and not the chat. And the reason for that is it just allows us to track the questions better, make sure that we're getting to all of them in the time we have, as well as have a record of those. And if we can't get to any, we can follow up with you directly. So with that, why don't we go into our next slide? So we're going to be talking a lot about the Accela platform and products, and it often helps to really do a bit of a recap as to how are they packaged and how are they structured. So if we start on the left, we really talk about our user interfaces first. And the first one on the upper left is our resident and business users interfaces. It's a public portal, and it allows residents and business users to go in and apply for permits and licenses, pay fees, get status, and essentially conduct business with the agency. The products that pertain to that are Accela Citizen Access, our premium citizen experience, as well as GIS functionality that can be exposed to those external users. So the next UI that we're going to talk about is our agency back office users. And those are the folks that come in every morning and they have their Accela panel and their tasks and what they're doing for that day. They're reviewing those applications and interacting with the applicants. The products that are going to be pertaining to this are Accela Insights, because of the reporting and visual data visualization, as well as our administrative functions and GIS as well. And our final category of end user is the field users, the mobile users. That's the inspectors and code enforcement agents. And of course, we'll be covering what's in the new release around Accela Mobile, and GIS, of course, is exposed on Accela mobile devices as well. If we move to the right-hand side, you see our Accela Civic applications. Civic applications are those pre-built configurations that we offer at Accela for 10 specific domain areas. I'm not going to go into each one of those, you can see them, but we do categorize them as building communities, growing businesses, protecting citizens. And then on the far right, you see that we do from time to time sell and implement solutions that are outside of these 10 core areas, as well as we have a partner network that will build solutions on our platform. Now, the Civic applications include very specific record types, reports, notifications, license types, workflows. They really build in a significant amount of domain expertise with the idea that we can get our customers really far along with an implementation in one of these specific areas. There's a lot to them. It can help shorten the implementation time, shorten the implementation cost, and really give our agency customers a great point that can either be a starting point or almost that end solution right out of the box. It's good for new business, obviously, prospects, but also for our customers. We do talk about Civic applications, those that have implemented their solutions, because if they want to extend or expand their implementations with Accela, the Civic applications are really useful for that as well. Now, all of our solutions sit on top of the Accela Civic platform, and that's the foundational technology, the core technology that powers all of our solutions. It includes the workflow and business logic components, the GIS and mapping components that we've talked about, all the security, APIs, analytics and reporting, data visualization elements that we're going to be talking more about, as well as all the administration functionality to power and maintain all of the solutions built on top of the platform. Also, accessibility and compliance and many other things are included in the Civic platform. And so it's the foundational technology for everything you see above it. And we're finding that it's really helpful for more and more customers that are deploying multiple Civic applications across agency departments on that consistent platform. The familiarity goes up, the technology goes up, they can create interactive workflows and integrate data flows as well. So those are some of the benefits we see from our agency customers that utilize the Civic platform across departments, Civic applications on top of the platform, and then the overall benefits they see from an efficiency standpoint and so forth. On the right-hand side, you'll see our points of integration, because obviously in the workflows that we implement, there's always some degree of integration with a third-party component, whether that's single sign-on, payment providers, plan reviews, document management, IVR, as well as custom. And we have out-of-the-box configurations and connectors for many of those. So the reason why I'm doing this is because we're going to be talking about the platform, the products that you see on the left, as well as we'll wrap up with what's new in the Civic applications with the spring 2022 release. I also want to take a second and talk about our overall release schedule. We have two major releases a year. We have a spring and a fall major release. And over the past couple of years, we've named those releases, or the versions associated with those releases, as the calendar year. So for example, we're in 2022. So this is the first release of calendar 2022. So it's version 22.1. In the fall, our second major release for this year will be 22.2. The reason why we've done that for a while now is that it helps individuals inside the company as well as outside the company always know what is the current release and where other releases fall with regards to, how long they've been in production and so forth and so on. We also plan service packs every month. Service packs introduce new capabilities and features that were not in the major release, but we still want to get them in before that next major release. And then we have patches as needed. They're shorter notice. They're things that we find that we need to implement within the software. And so those are going to be, short notice, less frequent, less often, and more random and less scheduled than the service packs or the major releases. Now, our timing for this release, again, we're 22.1, is for our first non-production environment rollout is April 7th. The non-production service pack, so before we go into production, we're going to be implementing a service pack. That'll be 22.1.1, and that's scheduled for May 5th. Now we go into production environments, as well as our Excella mobile release, and that's scheduled for May 12th. Our on-premise customers will be able to get the link to the FTP site to download 22.1 for on-premise deployment, and that's May 16th. And then our Civic applications generally tail a little bit, and June 20th is the date for that. So how do you know what the dates of the releases are, and how do you get the notification that a release is coming? The Success community, I'm hoping that all of you are in the Success community. It's our online forum for customers. We've now really started announcing all of the important information around releases in the Success community. So if you're not a member of that community now, I encourage you to sign up, as well as utilize daily notifications. And the reason for that is if we do have a patch or a service pack, that way you're always going to be on top of what we're planning from a release standpoint. So join the Success community, and there's also a ton of other really important and helpful information there as well. Next slide. So now the focus of the spring 2022 release. Well, in general, all releases must balance essentially three things: new products, features, technologies, In the past, that might have been Excel Insights or Premium Citizen Experience. Those are two new technologies that we've launched recently. But then there's also the admin and usability enhancements, as well as technology modernization. And this release, we're focusing probably more on the latter two. And the reason why is because those two ensure that we can maximize the value that our customers make, or the ROI or the value on the investment our customers make in our technology. If we've got to make sure that we're maximizing the efficiency, the usability, and the administration capabilities. So we're doing that with this. We're reducing the admin costs, enhancing the usability, and improving processes overall. We're increasing the leverage of process data, because there's one thing that we've heard over the last couple of years is that our agency customers are absolutely focused on maximizing their operational data to make better decisions and improve efficiency and productivity in their departments or agencies. And finally, to continue the tech modernization with new user interfaces like the Oxygen UI, built on new frameworks like Angular. And so this is just to kind of tee up where Kathy and Amber are going to take it from here. They're going to go into much more detail on this. But I kind of wanted, again, to set the stage as to what we were thinking when we put this release together. So Kathy, over to you.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to start with the features that we have only added to our SaaS platform. So to take advantage of this set of features, you will need to be using Excella's hosted solution. The first area we focused on was enhancing the staff global search. So for 22.1, this includes a consolidated everything card display of all the searchable components, such as transaction records, documents, locations, licensed professionals, assets, etc. And along with the everything card, also the ability to view both active and inactive records in the result list. So there's a lot of great enhancements in the search that I think will help you get to information faster, which is what Brian was talking about as one of our focuses of this release. Another area that we've enhanced is our scripting management. So with this release, you can now view and download scripting logs from the last 7 days. And this will enable you to do a faster troubleshooting of scripts and help you efficiently manage any errors that may be in your scripts. Another area we added was the ability to add an image to the login screen. So agencies can set up a background screen or an image that's associated with a particular environment. So with this feature, you'll minimize the mistake of not knowing which environment you are in if you're in non-prod or production, because you can have different images in the background. So that's a really great feature as well. Additionally, we made some enhancements to our Forte integration. So this includes the ability to use the chip reader from the point of sale, as well as the payment processing portlets. We've also added the ability to deposit to a trust account. And then the final feature for SaaS only customers is a My Dashboards portlet for easy access to your Excella Insights dashboards. So we're just going to give you a highlight on some of these features. So the first one is the My Dashboards, which you can access from the Launchpad, and then it will display the dashboards that the user has permission to, and then they can select the dashboard to view the details of the dashboard. So that's a quick way for users to get to information on the dashboards that they need so they can be more efficient in their jobs. Next is an example of the payment from the payment processing portlet. So this allows you to take payment for multiple records in a single transaction and just select the records. Then you would select credit card, fill in the necessary information, and then the users or the customers can insert the EMV chip reader, which will authorize the payment, and the payment's complete. So the transaction will propagate through the entire system. And then the next one is an example of the point of sale portlet. So in this portlet, this allows you to take payment for items that are not associated with a record. So you can pick any item such as a document or copy fees. And then again, it's a similar process for the payment that you can use the chip reader to go ahead and collect the credit card information that goes straight to the gateway, and the transaction will propagate through the system. So now I'm going to turn it over to Amber to give you an overview of some of the other features.
All right, thanks, Kathy. All right, this is a look at the new enhanced global search that Kathy mentioned. The search box displays now in the top right-hand corner, and when you enter a value, you get search results across all of the various areas of the product. So you don't need to navigate, let's say, to the licensed professional search page or the parcel search when searching against those key global search words. The new search also highlights the matches to the keywords, making it easy to see. And if there are multiple pages of results, you can use the previous and next options to get to those additional results. As you can see in the search results, we also display more information. So we see a few permits here that have multiple addresses, parcels, or owners. And rather than just displaying the primary address or displaying individual line items here for each location, the results display the connection of that location data to the permit without drilling into the details. And if you want to drill into the respective records, you can do that as well. The record opens up in a new space so that you can work on it, and then you can return back to the search and your results will still be there. And then you can open a new record again in a new space and then go back to those search results. You can also use the tabs at the top to filter based on the information you're looking for. Let's say you want to see just location information, find the record you're looking for, and then drill down into the details. Now, the enhancements to the global search came from community ideas, and then we, over the last year or so, tested and validated them with users. This is the first phase of the global search enhancements, and it's available to all of our SaaS customers. The second phase will be coming this fall. This is a look at the new back office login background for the spring release. This with a beautiful spring landscape. This new background image will display for users after your environments are upgraded to 22.1. If you're a SaaS customer and you want to change this background, you can do that with this release. So for example, you might want to brand your production site with your favorite pictures of your city. And if you want to have a different background image, let's say for your support or your test environments, to make sure that it's really clear what environment you're logging into, you can do that as well. In this example here, we used the city or this beautiful landscape for our non-production environment. And the last SaaS feature I wanted to highlight is the new EMSE log functionality, which you can access from the administration link. You can open up the new page and you can filter down to the information you're looking for. So that could be maybe by the date or time that an event or script was fired, maybe by the event name or the actual script code, along with other options to drill into the details. You can also open up the script return debug from the list for each of these items, and you can type in key search words within the debug window to again find what you're looking for. From the list, you can sort, you can clear, reset your filters, and you can also select individual line items in the log and export the details and work in other tools, or maybe you could export these details and provide this information, let's say in a support case, to Excella. Now we are rolling this out in 2 phases. The first phase of this, the new feature will be available to a limited set of our SaaS customers. They're going to use it, try it out on a day-to-day basis, provide us some feedback, and then we're going to enable this for all of our SaaS customers in a service pack this summer. All right, next let's move on to the functionality for all of our customers, both SaaS and on-premise, which I'm really excited to share with you. The first set of enhancements are for back office and our administrators. The first is enhancements to our form designer. If you recall, we made a big move last fall and we released a new form designer that makes all the forms in the back office mobile responsive. After this release, we got some feedback from our customers about how the intake form renders differently for different size monitors. So in this release, we've optimized the intake form for small monitors like 13-inch laptops and also for very large monitors. We also added an auto refresh capability to the record header. The header displays whenever you're focused on a specific permit or license record. And with this release, whenever a user makes a change on the permit, even though you're still on the same page, the header is going to automatically refresh behind the scenes so that the user is always looking at the latest information without needing to refresh or navigate away. And we also added what I would call a huge advancement to our administration. For those of you that don't know, the Civic platform has hundreds of configuration options. And sometimes it's hard to remember where everything's located, especially if you're not in here every day making changes. So this release provides a shortcut, a search tool that lets you search for what you want to change, and then it takes you right there without training, without help guides, or stumbling around looking for stuff. Here's a look at that record header enhancement that I mentioned. I know it seems simple because it is simple, but it is important and will eliminate some confusion. That record header that displays a summary of the record will be automatically refreshed when you make changes. So in this example, we are updating the location information and adding that to the record while we're still focused on it. That individual location component in the record header will auto refresh with the latest information immediately without refreshing the entire page. And now you can always be sure that what displays is the latest, greatest information. This is a look at the new admin search. When you navigate to the administration, you now have a new search box right here above the menu. You can type in keywords, you can type in partial text, and then that list is going to filter based on anything containing that text. So for example, if you type in GIS, it gives you all the GIS administration options right there in the menu. And speaking of GIS, we'll cover the GIS enhancements for 22.1 next. Now at this release, Excella now allows an agency to integrate Civic Platform with an Esri server that is configured with federated login. Leveraging the federated user-based logins to Esri, Civic Platform users will get access to more features and functionality, such as the Esri portal capabilities. Server-based authentication is still supported if agencies choose not to move to the federated model. And although this is only supported in Civic Platform this release, the same enhancement will be extended to Excella Mobile in the near future. Along with the login enhancements, 22.1 also supports the latest release of ArcGIS Server version 10.9, which means we'll be dropping support of ArcGIS Server 10.7 at this release. So if you're on that release, make sure to upgrade before the production release. And the last item for GIS is a new feature that allows users, when creating a new map, to choose a vector tile base map option. With this additional functionality, users can combine raster and vector base maps and create a completely custom base map gallery, or you can combine the custom base maps with Esri's default base maps. Vector tile base maps reference a set of web accessible vector tile data that includes things like points, lines, and polygons, and can be used to generate many map styles. These are super easy to customize and generate very quickly. Now let's move on to our updates for Excella Citizen Access. For Excella Citizen Access, we have some big changes, including the highly anticipated multiple APO functionality and a streamlined account registration process. Now, both are the first product features built using a new technology stack and Excella's Oxygen design system. These features highlight an improved user experience that will eventually be available throughout the entire product. The multiple APO feature is necessary for growing communities where multiple unit projects are being developed. So now public users can add multiple addresses, parcels, and owners on a single application, reducing any dependencies on back office staff to enter this information after the initial application has been submitted. And the account registration redesign ensures that citizens can more easily register for Excella Citizen Access to interact and transact with your agency. Other new features in this release include enhancements to Brand Builder that allows agencies to change primary buttons, allowing them to bring more attention to certain actions. Conditions, also referred to sometimes as locks, holds, and notices, are now more prominent and easier to consume by the public. And the record details page has been enhanced to surface the important location information, minimizing the need to drill down into the permit details to get this information. Almost all of the enhancements for citizen access in this release come straight from high voted ideas on community. So I just want to say thank you to those of you that submitted these amazing ideas and for those of you that voted for them. Here is a look at the multiple APO feature showing the contractor filling out a commercial electrical permit for multiple parcels. The maximum is set to 5, as you can see here, for each component at the top of each section. Once the user enters their search info and selects the parcel type, the user can see the results and select the parcels that apply. The system is then going to provide suggestions to the addresses and owners that are associated with those parcels. And then the contractor can click on each one of those suggestions and select the ones they want to add to the application. Once the contractor completes the application process, the record is created in the Civic platform with all of the parcels and associated addresses and owners. And the first parcel selected is set as the primary. But if the contractor wants to change that, they can do that on the card by selecting the star icon. This is a look at the new account registration process. This process starts as it normally does with citizen access by selecting the option to sign up. And you're going to enter your username, email address, password, and security questions. You'll notice that the fields are stacked as this is industry standard and optimized for the public to register from their mobile device. Now, the terms of service or the disclaimer page is now a link that opens in a new window for the user to review. After they do that and they accept the terms of service, they can enter their contact information. The big change here is that it's all on the same page. The pop-up windows and all the extra clicks through those multiple screens to enter the information is now gone. Once they complete all of this information, they're done. They get a success message, and now they can start using the site. All right, now let's take a look at what's coming for Excella Mobile. Now, just like ACA, we have some highly anticipated enhancements here driven primarily by our early adopters of Excella Mobile. The first one is personalized checklists. Now, these new features dynamically display checklists based on the type of inspection or code enforcement investigation being performed. For example, food inspections usually have very long checklists, and the inspector is required to disposition each checklist item. These checklist options have now prominent disposition options on the checklist page to quickly mark in, out, or NA with one click for each item. You can see an example of that on the screenshot here on the right. But for other types of inspections, let's say for a building inspection, you might want to have, you may only need to mark those checklist items when something needs to be fixed. You don't need to disposition every single one in the checklist. These checklist items may also contain more result options, more than what could maybe display on one screen. And they may take more time when entering these results. So these dynamic checklists let you display the different checklist items in different ways, which I'm going to show you here in just a minute. In both cases, the checklists have been enhanced to surface the information that might be important during inspection. For example, past violations or past inspections, attached photos for failed items in the last inspection, and any important comments that the inspector should take a look at. This information previously was a couple levels deep and required the user to drill down to get to that information, and now that's surfaced here on the main page of the checklist. And then the last item is, in this release, we will support running the Android app on a Windows 11 device. This is going to give you all more options for mobile hardware. This is a glance at that new inspection checklist that I mentioned. So here you can see how quickly the inspector can disposition the checklist by just doing a tap here on in, out, and NA. They can quickly snap a picture and capture any additional information, such as whether this is a repeat violation, if it was corrected on site, and also the degree of the violation. Once we close this out, let's take a look at a different checklist. This one was configured a little bit differently. You can see instead of that one click of the status, you can select from a larger list of options. And then the important information I talked about is right here with one click. This checklist item failed last time, which will prompt the inspector to look more at the detailed history. This is a quick snapshot of what Excella Mobile looks like running on a Windows device. Now, before we get into the updates of our Civic application to round out our webinar here, I did want to call out the products and the features that will reach its end of life or end of maintenance at 22.1, so that you're all aware of these changes. The first is this Silverlight Data Manager and Record Type Administration. These features will no longer be accessible from the product. Instead, you can use the new Configuration Manager, which is the replacement for Data Manager, and Record Type Definition, which is the replacement for Record Type Admin. These new replacement features will be turned on in the admin menu if you had Data Manager or Record Type Admin enabled, or you can turn it on using FID. The second is a wrapper class for Java.io file classes. This class will be deprecated on April 28th for non-production and May 5th for production. If you're using these classes, you should have received a notification from Excella with instructions on how to replace the old class with the new one. And of course, if you have any questions about this, please reach out to customer support. The next here is our Contractor Central mobile application. This is an older mobile app that was available to contractors that interacted with multiple agencies and ACA sites. This app will be removed from the App Store and Google Play around May 1st. Instead of the app, contractors now will be directed to use Excella Citizen Access. As I mentioned earlier, ArcGIS Server 10.7 will be deprecated. This means that Excella is no longer testing or supporting this version within the Excella products. So if you're using this version, we highly recommend that you upgrade to 10.8 or 10.9.1 before the move to production. And with each major release, the support of an older version will drop off. Excella's policy provides maintenance on the current version and one back. So starting in April, Civic Platform version 21.1 will no longer receive any more updates. If you want to keep up to date on Excella's end of life and end of maintenance schedule, please check out the knowledge article on community, and we'll have somebody posted in the chat as well so that you can bookmark that. And with that, I'll turn it back to Brian to finish things out with updates to Civic applications.
Great, thank you, Amber. Next slide, please. So the Civic applications, we have some enhancements, as I mentioned earlier, that generally trail the platform in Excella Mobile and other product enhancements with the release. One of the things that we've focused on for this version is the integrations. And so pre-configured integrations with Civic applications include a new SIRS adapter. Now, the SIRS adapter is something required by the CUPAs, or California-based hazardous material programs, and it's key to what those agencies do. So there's a new SIRS adapter for that, as well as Forte and PayPal integrations, again, throughout all of our civic applications. There's additional Excella Insights dashboards. I think we've talked earlier about the fact that we wanted to create packaged dashboards across our 10 civic applications so that they come out of the box and they're pre-optimized for the typical information that we see our agency customers looking for. And so we've added 2 more with the spring release, with fire prevention and occupational licensing. Specific to environmental health civic application, we've put together a decade migration program with tools and services, pricing. We're really wrapping that up. Decade is an environmental health product that was acquired by Excella, I believe back in 2015. And so there's customers, and some of you may be on this call, that are looking for your next options. And so again, we're putting this program together for you to make a migration to the environmental health civic application on the civic platform as easy as possible, as well as the SIRS adapter that I mentioned. Other aspects for civic applications include additional reports and usability enhancements specific to the building and planning civic applications, new license types. We're going to talk, I've got the list of that in a second, for our occupational licensing civic application. And then the premium citizen experience templates. Now, this is something that's really important. I've got a slide that shows what these are, but these are those resident facing UIs, those externally facing UIs that are incredibly dynamic and helpful. And we're, again, implementing those, creating those packaged with all of our civic applications. And so here's an example of a dashboard that would come with a civic application. It's showing permit trends, and now we're seeing permit by type. So you can mouse over, you can see month over month, as well as within the years, and determine what nature the trending is. If you want to drill down into fire suppression, for example, you can see all of the detail associated with that particular permit type. Now we're on a dashboard that shows the difference between online versus paper submissions. And you can see 73% growth in 2020, which is pretty darn good for moving the permit application process from paper into online. Again, these are examples of the types of dashboards that come with our civic applications. They're tuned for the civic applications. And again, the dashboards are so critical. They help managers really dig into operational information and detail around their functions, their processes, and identify backlogs, bottlenecks, and really change things in a way that can dramatically improve efficiency and productivity, but they can't do that unless they really see what's going on. So again, a couple of examples here. Next slide. Next slide, please. There we go. So occupational licensing, we talked about additional record types. All of our civic applications generally, and we've been launching them for a number of years now, they come up with additional components as we go along. So we build them out, we expand them out. And occupational licensing, which was one of the later civic applications to be launched, where we've done a nice job with spring 2022 to build out construction licenses. You can see dentistry, medical, physical therapy, and so on and so forth. The idea behind building these out, again, is so that our customers that are perhaps implementing or extending their occupational licensing civic application get these record types out of the box. They don't have to be created by an implementer, whether that's Excella or a partner on site within the project. They come with the civic application, again, looking to shorten the time, increase the value of the implementation. Next slide. And this is an example of premium citizen experience. And this is powered by Open Cities, and it works in conjunction with ACA. So, but this is what a resident or business owner would see initially. They would come in, it's very graphic, it's very dynamic, it can be changed. It's a low code, no code environment, which many agencies can maintain themselves without bringing in web help. But the point is that a resident can come in, this is a report an issue or service request example, but they see descriptions. This can be extended into pre-qualification and wizard-based guidance through the process. And then again, transitioning into ACA for the more in-depth form fill into and kicking off the Excella workflows. But this, again, the focus with this release is to ensure that all of our civic applications have these pre-built premium citizen experience UIs that, again, come with the civic application out of the box. So that is our webinar. We hope that we touched on a lot of the things that you're interested in. I'm looking, and we do have some time for some Q&A. So as I mentioned before, when we kicked off, and many of you have done this, please use the Q&A icon in your Zoom panel, because we can do a really nice job of tracking all the questions and again, making sure that we get back to you if we don't actually have significant time. So, but let me kick off. And so I'm going to go ahead and read the questions, and then Kathy and Amber can help me answer those. And again, thank you for all the questions. We've gone through a lot throughout the session. First question I've got from an attendee is, how many days of logs can you see in the EMSE logging feature? And Amber, I think that one might be for you.
Yeah, so the EMSE log feature that I showed earlier will have 7 days of logs in this initial release.
Gotcha. Thank you. We have another question. I'm a new customer, and this is my first major release. What do I do when it's released? Another one for you, Amber?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I'm so glad you asked it. And welcome to Excella. So when we release, we release our major versions to non-production environments first, as Brian had mentioned earlier in the session. This is a time for you to get in there, check out all the new features that we showed you today, test them out. You know, there might be some differences in flow or behavior than what your users are typically used to. So it's a really good time to evaluate, do we need to do like a mini training session before production? Or you might want to test out maybe your common use cases just to make sure everything is working as expected. And if you run into any issues during that time period, make sure you submit a support case. We've got a team behind there that monitors everything when a new release comes out. And we have a planned service pack about 4 weeks after we do the initial early release that we plan to address those issues that are found during that non-production period. So it's really important that you get in there early. So if you do have any issues, we have time to address them before they go to production. So really great question. In addition to this webinar, I'd encourage you to go out to community, pick up the release notes, because there's more to this release than what we highlighted today. We just highlighted the big stuff. You know, review the third-party dependency section and anything that you might be interested in regarding the release. Great,
thanks, Amber. This one I think is for Kathy, and I know you touched on this briefly, but the question states, when you say ArcGIS 10.7 is deprecated, what exactly does that mean? And will it just stop working? So Kathy?
Sure. Well, what it means is that when we test and validate our system and our GIS capabilities, we are testing and validating against the 10.8 and 10.9x versions. So we're no longer testing and validating against the 10.7. However, the 10.7, it's not like we're ripping out code or anything. It should still work, and it's not significantly different than 10.8. It just means that we're not testing and validating it and fixing any defects that may come up as we release our product going forward.
Great, thank you. Another question, and this one I think is for Amber, is the ACA multiple APO feature that we really kind of kicked off on the webinar turned on when the product is released, or do we need to do something to take advantage of this feature? So Amber?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of things you do need to do to turn it on. So if you just leave it alone and don't do anything with it, it'll just work the way that you have it working today. If you want to take advantage of the feature, there's 2 standard choices that would be contained in the release notes and also the documentation to turn that on. So we won't be disrupting anything without if you don't make any changes, it'll just continue to work as is until you're ready to use it.
Gotcha, thanks. Another question, can we control the number of parcels that a user can add to a permit? I think that might be Amber as well.
You can, yeah. You probably saw in the demo, I did actually even call it out to say there was a max of 5. Yeah, there is a setting in there that you can control the number of parcels, addresses, and owners that can be added to each of the applications. There are, I think, a couple of standard choice settings, and in the page flow, you can control that setting. By default, it'll be set to 1 because that's what you have set up today. And then if you want to add to them, then you can do that there in the settings.
Great, thank you. A question, I think this one might be for Kathy. Will the new Forte enhancements allow us to accept trust account deposits?
Yes, it will, and it will allow it from both ACA and back office.
Gotcha. Another one for you, Kathy. Where is the new dashboards feature configured, in Report Manager or some other place?
So to configure the My Dashboards portlet, it's a 2-step process. One is that you can add the portlet and assign it to an agency. So then the permissions at the agency level will get applied. Once you've added the portlet, in order for dashboards to show up in the portlet, inside of Report Manager, you will have a checkbox for Excel Insights reports where you can check the box to add them to the dashboards. And you can find the detailed steps for this in the release notes.
Great, thanks. The question states, does that multiple address parcel owner search work with external addresses? And I think that might be for Amber.
Yeah, I can take that one. Yes, it does. The experience is a little bit different because the functionality for reference address parcels and owners is different than XAPO, but what you saw today, it's very similar.
Gotcha. And somebody's asking a little bit more detail about the Excel mobile on Windows, specifically, how will it work? So Amber, I think that's yours as well.
Yeah, so Microsoft released the ability to run Android apps on Windows 11. It is still in a beta mode, but will be released GA very soon. We have been testing that and everything is working very well. So once Microsoft releases that GA, then you'll be able to get the download the Excel mobile app through the Android app on a Windows 11 device.
Perfect, thank you. A question states, I'm using the current SIRS adapter right now, and how do I get the new one that you've mentioned? Amber, I think that's for you.
Yeah, so if you're using the SIRS adapter now, the older one, and you want to try out the new one, just give us a call, reach out to your account executive, and we'll set up some time and we'll get that deployed to your environment.
Great. Kathy, I think this one is for you. It states, can we combine raster and vector base maps that we create to our existing default base maps so they are in one list?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. However, all the base maps that you combined or configured, they need to have the same map projection in order to accurately load. So you can combine raster and vector base maps to create custom base maps, but again, they just have to have the same map projection.
Gotcha. This one states that background image feature is cool, and I agree. Those were pretty cool images on your examples there. Did you say I could change it to anything I want? And Amber, that was you presenting that section.
Yes, yeah. If you're a SaaS customer, you can change those background images to anything you want, and you can change the image per environment. So you could have a different one for production, then test and support. So yeah, whatever you like. Go for it.
This one I think is for Kathy. This states, will the dashboard be automatically enabled? I think the ones we talked about for civic applications, or do we need to add customized console in order for it to show via user interface? I guess is there a FID controlling who has access for it?
Right, so there's no FID. You just need to add the portlet, like I mentioned before, and then in the My Dashboards, add the reports.
Gotcha. Let's see. For the multiple address on record, can that be modified to more than 5? Can you only have 5 to 10 addresses maximum?
No, you can set it to whatever maximum you would like. We set the 5 just as an example in that one. So you want to set it, of course, to a reasonable amount. You don't want people to add, let's say there would never be a scenario where you have 300 addresses on a permit. You might want to set it to something realistic as a maximum, but you can control that per record type.
Got it. Got it. Kind of a related one is the multiple APO feature turned on by default, and can we still limit it to one address, owner, and parcel? Thanks.
Yes, so the feature, so the APO feature is not turned on by default. If you log in when we first released 22.1, it'll look like it does today. There's a couple of standard choices to turn that on. And then once you turn it on, it's defaulted to one address, and then you can extend it if you'd like.
Gotcha. And let's see, will the multiple APO features work with an XAPO setup? Amber?
Yes, yep, and it uses all the settings that they have, that you may have set today.
Okay, all right. We are slowing down on the questions. We still have a few minutes left. And so I'll give it another minute. Remember, it's the Q&A panel. I know our team has been in there answering a number of the questions as well, live throughout. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we've gotten to all the questions at this point. We'll hold for another minute. Will background sign-up page images be made available for self-hosted clients?
So for self-hosted customers, that background image I showed right in the beginning of the new spring, mountain landscape, that will be available when you download the new version, but you won't have the option to change the background image. That is something that's just available to our SaaS customers.
Okay, all right.
Brian, also, I did get, as we're waiting maybe for some other questions to come in, I did get a correction here from one of my product managers about the APO functionality and for the behavior if you just have a single address parcel owner in the application form. She says that although it still accepts single APO, that new UI that you see today will be available in the new release.
Okay.
So you don't need to turn anything on to get the new UI. You just need to turn on the settings if you want to use multiple addresses, parcels, or owners.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Well, apparently some questions are still coming in. I think we're answering them live in the Q&A versus having them come my way, but I'm going to talk very slowly so that our team has a chance to answer as many as possible. We've got 5 minutes left. I think I'll give it another few seconds and then maybe we'll wrap up here. And I'm still waiting. Okay, I think we might have one coming in. Sorry for the pause here, but again, the focus of this is so you all can learn as much as you could possibly can about our release. So that's why we want to make sure that if you have questions, we have an opportunity to answer them. Yeah, I can certainly mention. So one of the things I talked about when it came to the release schedules, because obviously between the major releases, the non-production environments, production environments, on-premise environments, et cetera, there's a lot of information that has to come out, and you all need to plan for that. You need to plan your testing and everything else. So we really focus on trying to give you as much notice as possible. I talked a lot about the success community and how you always want to go there for the information around releases. The trust pages, which you're probably familiar with, are really good for the status of the environments and sort of, blast notifications that are pertinent to our clusters in Azure and that kind of information. But things like the release is coming, that will always be in success community. I want to mention as well that our document library, where all of the release notes, especially for this release, that they've just been posted. So 22.1, the release notes are also in Success Community. I think you go into Knowledge and Documents, if memory serves, and you'll find the whole library of all of our release notes and documentation there in Community as well. So again, another plug for Community. Let's see. We have another on the default background. Can we change back to Excella default background? And Amber, that one be for you.
Yeah, so yeah, you can certainly do that. That background image will be available for you to pick the default, or you can, like I said, change it to whatever you want. So you can toggle back and forth.
All right, well, thank you. I think that's the last of our questions. I'll give you 3 minutes back. Thank you so much for attending the webinar today and learning more about our spring release, or 2022. We hope we've answered your questions. You always know how to reach out to us. Please, if you have additional questions, contact your AE. If you have support issues, as Amber mentioned, with the new release, something that comes up, you can always file those support tickets as well. So again, thanks so much for attending. Thanks to Kathy and Amber for helping me out on this. And we will see you at the next Excella webinar. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.